my 9th class champions, the day we were all awaiting for is finally here. The new book of class 9th has been released, Exploration, and we are going to review the whole book today and see lots of things. First and the main, how exactly do we read this book, what is in this book, and what is NCERT actually expecting us to do by reading this book. I know I am a little bit weak, I sprained my ankle, I fell down, but I am here now and I'm all set. The Josh is so high to teach you science in a new way, in a manner that actually hits your heart. Right now, this new NCERT book, it has a pretty little cover. It shows the rural India or a park or maybe a site that we don't see in big cities today. But the book it's like reaching my heart because the way it has been presented, I personally really like it, right? Because earlier we used to study what we know, right? What is photosynthesis? What is actually a process? What is a ray diagram? What are the laws of reflection, refraction? What is electricity, motion, blah, blah. But in this book, they are actually focusing on how we know it. How we know it means when an apple fell and Newton was like, why did it fell down? Why didn't it go up in the sky? You know, those kind of questions actually Newton asked, and then he reached to such a great theory, so many great theories, so many laws of motion that we actually study even in MSc. Okay, so those are the things this book is trying to teach us. This book is trying to teach us to explore, and hence the name Exploration. Right, we are going not to just study science, not to just read some laws. We are going to explore that how actually that scientist thought, and then what are the processes what are the questions he asked that made him reach that specific conclusion. Okay, I have made that video on this as well, so you can go watch that. Now, talking about this particular book, when we see this particular book actually asks us to think about how do you observe, right? Why am I wearing this specs, and how this specs is actually making me look very clear, right? I am able to look at the camera, look at you guys, or you are able to watch screen very clearly. If you have specs on, then how? What actually is happening, right? And who discovered it? How did a person thought that there should be something that I can put in front of my eyes that I will be able to see clearly, right? Imagine that thought. How do you question? And what is the exact question you should be asking to actually reach at the right conclusion, right? The first chapter really talks about it. You say when you hit a bat and if it will be a 6 or a catch out, what will you ask? The strength of the batsman, the willow of the bat used, or maybe the ball, the mass of the ball. But will you talk about the number of threads on the seam? Right? You ask good questions, you get good answers and right answers, and that is what this book is trying to teach us on a very, very basic level, because from 9th your foundation will be set. And if you take science in your 11th, 12th, the whole process starts from here. Of course, every time even we start 11th or 12th or in the 10th, we say that if you haven't studied anything in 10th, we will be here, we'll teach you from the basics. Yes, we will. But if you also know the basics, already know how to think, how to observe, how do you connect science with your daily life, and you do that every day, then it is just easier for you to meld into a being which actually loves science and not just want to score good in science, right? And how do you think like a scientist? A lot of my students are doing, a lot of my friends are doing PhD in IITs, in ISERs, and they are going to be scientists. And how do they think? How did Newton think? How did Albert Einstein think? We all will study from this book, right? Now for that, this book actually tells us how to study. So we are going to look at some steps that you have to follow before you actually start studying, right? The very first I want from you, where is the pen? Yes, the very first is I want from you is read like a story. So of course I have put so many one shots, I give so many examples, you can go watch them. But when you sit down and you read NCERT, and I'm like, don't just try to mug up things. Don't try to say, okay, let me just read it for the exam and I'll just have to finish it. No, but you have to study science with your whole heart, because then only you will be able to understand that. You know, when I used to study, and I was like, okay, today I am going to study a law, or I am going to study a concept that I didn't know yesterday that existed, but I was probably using it. You don't know what reflection is, what refraction is, but if you are wearing a specs, you are using it in your daily life, right? That's crazy, right? So that is what I want you. That is the approach I want you to have. Read the chapter like a story, not to mug up. Right? What is this chapter trying to explain? When you sit down and you read the first paragraph of NCERT and this book, it's very clear. It tells you, it relates you to the previous chapter, your previous classes even, and it makes you think what this chapter is actually trying to tell me. Because 9th and 10th is, I feel it's mostly common sense. You ask, why do I have to study science? For common sense. We are studying motion and you are traveling in a car and you know I have to brake, so you're using it, but you don't know how that is actually happening. Right? So some of you might become car designers, car engineers, engine designers, and how do these people think that I want to do it? From the chapter motion, I will say. Okay, so that is what you have to ask yourself. How do I see this in real life? Whenever you see yourself, father driving, and you see he's accelerating the car, and you'll think like, acceleration, that means change in velocity per unit time. That's how you relate those things to your real life. Whenever you see a leaf and you think of photosynthesis, so the way you see this entire world around us changes drastically. Like, I can think of oxygen atom, nitrogen atom flying around. Like, that doesn't make me a maniac, but it makes me a little bit closer to a scientist, to a thinker, I will say, right? And bacha, I know you want to be a thinker. We should at least have common sense, right? Okay, then what is the main idea? What is this particular chapter wants me to learn? What is the main idea behind this whole chapter, right? And which examples are given in the book? Because examples are very important, and that is exactly how you relate. See, I asked you to relate it to real life, right? But there are so many examples that you might not be able to think. Right? And that is why there are examples given in NCERT which helps you relate that particular concept to the real life. Okay, so first reading is not for memorizing, it is for understanding the flow of the chapter, the idea of the chapter, and what the CBSE board or what this book is trying to teach you. Okay, and I will say again and again, it is just common sense that you are learning through science. Okay, next we have, where do we have next? Yes, so a little review of the book. This book consists of so many things other than, see, this is just distance traveled and displacement, fine. But this book shows you a little bit more than what other books show. It is clearly, there is a note mentioned here. Now, there was notes mentioned in the earlier books as well. But this book tries to actually make you think and tries to tell you stuff that you might not know before and you might not think of knowing before. Right, if that makes sense. So it was like an instant of time and a time interval are not same thing. Do you think I say time, instantaneous time, interval of time, both things are different? But if you haven't studied in class 9 science or you haven't watched my one shot, you would not know it, right? So those are the things that I call is common sense, because when you go on a bigger level, these things do come into your conversation. Right, mind this and write this down. These things come into your normal regular conversation when you talk with such high level people, right? Because they are using it in every day. So it's like an instant of time is a single reading of a clock at a given point of time. So my clock is pointing at 2 hours and 30 minutes. That's a single instance of time. But from 30 minutes to 20 minutes, now the clock is at 2:50, right? The hands are little off, but now exactly. Now how much time has passed? 20 minutes has passed, right? So this 20 minutes is actually the interval of time. That's what is written. Where is the time interval? Is the time duration between two instances of time. So this book actually tells you the minute little details that our chutku brains don't know yet. Right? Understood? So, beta, these books will actually explain you what is happening around you and what will actually happen around you eventually, and how do you use this in your daily life. Okay, and also ready to go beyond. Now, this is the section I love the most. This is the section I love. Okay. Because see, you are studying something in your science class and you read about distance, you read about displacement, but sometimes we are a lot curious, and NCERT is trying to like instill that curiosity in us so that we ask questions. So it takes us a little bit beyond from what our brain thinks that it should go. Right? So it says like physical quantities which can be specified by just their numerical value are called scalars. Now scalars and vectors are something that again you will study till your masters, till even your PhD in BTech, everywhere. So these are the things that they are trying to tell you, that scalar is a quantity just has magnitude, vector is a quantity that has magnitude as well as direction. Right? So these are the things, rather than just studying it in a way that you want to score, rather than that, NCERT is trying to like present it in a lovely way, in a manner that actually makes us curious. Right? Next we have the same book. Now, this instance I love as well. Again, I actually love this book. But think it over. The chapter is just starting, right? But they are asking you to think first. They are asking you a question. They are instilling a chutku sa question in your brain which like spikes your curiosity. You know, when we look at the reels or the shorts, we say that the hook should be good. You should be hooked. So maybe this is then NCERT trying to make you hook. Right? Because they know you have an attention span of a sparrow, or maybe sparrow has more attention span than you and me as well. But okay, we will not talk about that. So think it over is how much distance should we maintain from the truck ahead to avoid a collision if it suddenly applies the brake. Now, whenever we drive, like whenever I used to drive, my father was used to tell me like maintain a distance from the vehicle that is in front of you, because if it applies sudden brake, I won't be able to control the vehicle, right? But how much distance should I keep? What is the criteria? If it's too much distance, the person behind will keep honking on my ears, right? But if it's too much close, I might get hurt. So these are the things that are common sense, right? Now you agree? These are common sense, and this is what NCERT is trying to teach you. And then, does this distance depend on the speed with which you are moving? Of course, if we are moving with lots of speed, we will make a little more distance, right? If we are at less speed, we might go a little bit closer because it's easier to handle the vehicle. If we were at a larger speed, will it be easier to handle the vehicle? No. So we maintain a better distance, a bigger distance, and that is exactly what, again, common sense is. Okay, next let's move on from common sense, and step 2 I want you to do is understand the keywords. Everyone is telling you underline the keywords. Make sure you put keywords in your answers. Keywords this, keywords that. But what are keywords? Right? Keywords are the things, beta. Those are the things that actually pop up or that are essential in your question. Whenever you write a question and you write what is photosynthesis, so you just don't have to explain photosynthesis. You have to explain how it's happening, and you have to explain the whole process, right? So there are such keywords that will define that answer. It will pop the answer, right? Better. So some of the keywords of chemistry, let's say you have studied homogeneous mixture, heterogeneous mixture, solute, solvent. So if you use these kind of words in your question, it just gives an idea to the teacher that this kid is good, this my boy or my girl is the best, because he or she knows what is the important word here. Like without this keyword, your answer will be incomplete, and that's what your keywords are, right? That's what your keywords are. Homogeneous, heterogeneous, solute, solvent, concentration. We usually talk about concentrations in our daily life. You know, haven't you? I used to love that ruh afza. right? And my mom used to say that there are two brands. One is concentrated, one is not concentrated. I was like, what is concentrated? And then she used to tell me, Aditi, concentrated is someone which is thick and you put it in the water to make it a dilute solution. If you directly drink Ruh Afza, will you think you would be able to swallow that? It's too sweet. Because it is too sweet because it is supposed to mix with water or in your milk. And that's what a concentration is. The concentration is high in this one, the thicker one, the concentration is low in this one. And that is what concentration is in our daily life. Okay, so all this evaporation, we all know evaporation happens everywhere around us. And then biology, we have some keywords like cell, tissue, organ, respiration, again photosynthesis, microorganisms. So these are the words that are important in your question to write. Okay, then physics, motion, force, pressure, energy, vibration, amplitude. These are some of the things that makes your answer a little better, that helps your teacher to understand you and your question and your preparation a lot better. Okay, that is why we say like keywords are equal to your Ramban. If you use keywords, it's going to be crazy. Your answer is going to be crazy good. Okay, beta. So next we have, that is your step 3 practice questions. Now this is where you have to do a little bit of hard work, because everything in life does not come easy. You can't just read the chapter like a story, enjoy it. You can't just use the keywords. You have to practice using the keywords, right? And that is how we do practice questions, to understand the concepts a little better. Whenever you study, sit and study and you do the questions, you will realize that you just understood something in the concept that you didn't before. Right? And that is what questions are for, to make us realize that the concept we studied is just not a random anything. Okay, so that's for how do you study actually. Okay, how do you understand the concepts, how do you practice questions? First, short notes are very important. I will make a video on how to make short notes as well, so subscribe the channel. Okay, now short notes are something like you have 2 pages of the book copy, right? So on those 2 pages you are going to complete the whole chapter. You are going to complete the whole chapter. You are going to write the summary of it, and we will do that. Okay, do not worry, we will do that. We will write the summary of the whole chapter. I will give you that. Do not worry about that at all. Your Aditi ma'am is with you. Now, after that, short notes is for revision. Now you have revised. Now we will move on to NCERT questions. First of all, I will make sure you do all that in our live sessions. I am going to come live tomorrow as well. Tomorrow, I'll tell you. So for that, join the WhatsApp channel. The link is down in the description, and there you will get all the information about when I'm going to come live, when other teachers are going to come live on this channel. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to do NCERT questions right now. Yes, in the summer vacations. Yes, because other students are not doing it. Okay, and if you know that you should do it, it will make you ahead of 90% of the students in your class. Okay, the rest 5-10% is just your hard work, and that also I will make sure that you do. Right, then we will move on to application questions. They will give you a scenario, because we know in 10th class CBSE has told that you will have case-based questions. Those are application questions, so we will do that as well. And then reasoning questions, to again understand the concept even better, to reason why this thing is happening, because that's how you will become a scientist. Okay, not just scientist in science or something, but a scientist of life. Oof, what a word. We are the scientists of life, and this book will make you that. I will make you that. Okay, then we have a subject strategy here. This is the main thing. Now we are going to see exactly how you are going to study physics, chemistry and biology in a way that puts you ahead of the whole of your class. Right, starting with chemistry, the concepts are very important. Okay, the concepts are very important, because if you don't use the concepts, if you don't know the concepts, you won't be able to do the numericals, and numericals are again very important. So concept is very important. Equations. Now personally, I was not a fan of equations. So my sir was like, beta, just just read this. Okay, I was like, I am reading this, but then I found the right strategy to learn and study equations, which I will tell you in all the videos. Okay, so equations, you have to write them down and practice. Actually, there is no shortcut, but we will do that in the live sessions as well. Okay, we will do that in the live sessions. Then numerical units are very important. We all know that, but we still somehow forget that, right? You do that, right? But beta, we are not going to do that. Then activities, a very important thing, because in NCERT, in CBSE board questions, activities have taken over. Like, right, CBSE is like, now we will give the questions from activities. So in chemistry, those are very important. Moving on to biology, we have to learn the structure and function together. What is the structure of a cell? What is the function of a cell? What is the structure of single cellular organisms, multicellular organisms? What is the structure of a leaf, and what is its function? So we are going to learn all of that together. That's how it will make sense to you. Okay, then for that, to make that easy, we will go with flowcharts, because flowcharts are easier to understand. And then keywords. In biology, keywords are literally the most important, because see, chemistry has equations, chemistry has numericals, physics has diagrams, ray diagrams, circuit diagrams, and physics has numericals. So what biology is left with? Theory. It also has diagrams, but those revolve around theories, right? So in biology, keywords are very important, and we will learn in such a way that you will love science with your heart, and you will feel your heart at peace. Okay, then moving on to physics. Physics, now my personal favorite, I will say, but you will learn such good concepts in physics that will make sense even when you look around. When you sit in a car, you will see, oh, I studied it in Niti ma'am's class. When you look at the trees going behind you, you will say, oh, Aditi ma'am told this. Trees are not moving behind, I am moving forward. It is common sense. But how this science used this small chotu common sense and made it into such big laws that are used in rocket propulsions as well, right? That is the beauty of science, bacha. Okay, then we will learn about diagrams and graphs, and I promise you, I will make those fun for you. Okay, I will make those fun for you. Next, in physics, numericals are very important. We will study that in live sessions. We last year, like, we used to do 100 numericals and all that. Don't fear from that. Don't fear from 100 numericals, but I am there. So we will do the numericals together. Okay, so all this to relate science in a daily life, and that is important. Okay, and the last, how to actually study this book, this exploration book that is completely new. How to actually study this? First, we are going to make short notes. I told you better, right? We are starting to map the chapter in a way that it is very easy to revise. You have studied the chapter like a story, but now we have to make it very easy and fun to revise and give the exam as well. Correct? Then definitions are very important, because in 9th and 10th, sometimes they will directly ask definitions as well. Diagrams and flowcharts, I told you, we will learn it in a very fun manner. Do not worry about that. So first, map the chapter. Second, we will learn definitions. How will we learn the definitions? Using diagrams and flowcharts. Okay. Then formulas and numericals, we will do that in the live session in a very fun manner. And then the last but the most important point, see, 90% of students will still do all these points, but what we are scared of, we are scared to look at ourselves and find mistakes. We are scared to see where we need to improve and work on ourselves, but that is the main thing. So you will have a notebook where you will write all your mistakes and you will then correct them with me. Okay, you write your mistakes there. You have some doubts, we'll do the live sessions. You come in the live sessions, ask those doubts, and then ace your class 9th science, and then move on to class 10th as well. Okay, that is it for this video. The whole exploration book is going to be it's going to be a blast studying this exploration book. I love this book, and I will make you fall in love with this book as well. Okay, that is it for this video. I'll meet you in the next one. Tada, bye bye.